Top of page Kofdalet. Hamaskana hayotzeis midvarenu hi. Shekasher yesh la'adam es hadarga hashniya shel ha'emunah. When a person ultimately again has this second level of emunah, dahainu shuchai be'emunah shakol l'tova, that he lives with the emunah that all is for good. V'hu moda u'mahalel es Hashem, and he gives thanks and praises HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He ends up living a very good life. Reguim ma'od, ni'imim ma'od, lechora, nira shadai lo la'adam, shiyochaz b'madrega hashniya. So again, it would seem to be enough that a person should go ahead and hold on to this second level. Why does a person have to continue forward? So after a person has this second level, all is litova. So what more is there? What greater need is there? כדי להכיר את הקדוש ברוך הוא ולדעת אותו, ולא יסבונין ולא ינסה להבין מה שמרמז לו, הוא לא יוכל להחזיק מעמד בדרגה של האמונה שהכל טוב. Ultimately, the issue is that if a person doesn't try to go ahead and take his emunah to the next level and try to figure out what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu trying to teach me, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu trying to hint to me, so ultimately a person will not be able to reach the true level of emunah. If a person is tested with an intense nisan, intense test, he will not be able to withstand it. And ultimately, again, he won't be able to go ahead and hold on to the emunah that all is for good. And ultimately, he will be unable to go ahead. He will immediately fall from the ability to be besimcha and to give gratitude. Zos mishum sheha'emuna shakol tova shayeches beikar kasher adam mekasher es hakol ela tachlis hanitzchis. But Rabbi said this ultimately comes from the emunah that all is that sha'adam mekasher es hakol tachlis hanitzchis. That a person is able to take all of his life circumstances and ultimately tie them to the ultimate good. Ki ikar hatov she'ish mikol ha'yisurim hu. Because the ultimate good that a person has from all of his challenges is that a person is able to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the tachlis for everything that occurs to an individual. To ultimately learn, to teach a person to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to come close to him. Therefore, we need the third level, the shehi shlemos ha'emunah. It is this third level that ultimately is the completion of emunah. Al yada ha'adam zocher lahagia el hayiyud velashlichus shelo ba'olam hazeh u'lahashlam estikuno. Therefore, although we have the first level of emunah, which teaches us that all is from God, the second level of emunah, that ultimately all is for good, we require this third level of emunah. It's in this third level of emunah that a person ultimately is able to establish a true closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's when a person is able to understand that all of his circumstances there's a purpose in all of them, and the purpose of all of them is to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So page Kuf Daled at the bottom, that section Gil, the third level of emunah. Ma Hashem rotze mimeni. What does Hashem want from me? Hadarga hashlishis hi ha'emunah. So we'll say the third level of emunah, shebechomash over hala adam yesh meser hashayich l'tachlis shelo l'kesher shelo im habore. So we'll say the third level of emunah is that a person ultimately again realizes that everything that occurs to him, there's a message. Yesh meser hashayich l'tachlis shelo. There's some type of message that is necessary for my tachlis l'kesher shelo im habore. Ultimately, again, I will say this third level of emunah is a recognition that there is a meaning in all of my circumstances. And in each of my circumstances, somehow, the deeper meaning ties me to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yesh mesra shayich l'tachlis shelo. In every life circumstance, there's a message that is necessary for my tachlis, for my purpose, for my actualization. La kesher im habore. Somehow, again, to establish some type of kesher, some type of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bevadai, l'chol davar she'Hashem oseh yesh tachlis. Also, we know that everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, there's a tachlis, there's a purpose. Va'al ha'adam ha'mamin b'hashgacha pratis l'chabes ma Hashem rotze mimenu. And I've also, for any person who believes in hashgacha pratis, any person who believes in divine providence, so he has to ask himself, what does Hashem want from me in these particular circumstances? Zehu davar sha'seichel hayasher mechayiv oso. I will say this process of asking oneself, this dual process of number one, recognizing that there is hashgacha pratis in everything, and ultimately trying to understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me in every circumstance. I will say this is part of this is this third level of emunah. Zehu davar sha'seichel hayasher mechayiv oso. This is something that just straight seichel requires of me. Sof kol sof habore ma'abir alav ma'oraos ela o acherim b'shvil lalamid oso seichel mesud. We'll say the circumstances that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings about are there in order to teach me some type of lesson. My circumstances in life are there to teach me a lesson. O la'orer oso l'takin ezedavar. Or sometimes my circumstances are there to point out that I need to fix something. They show me that something is in an active state of disrepair. O la'asos tshuva al ezechet, top of page kofhei, o alavot. Or sometimes my life circumstances are there in order to teach me that I need to do tshuva for a particular sin or a particular transgression. O lehischazek b'kiyum ezo mitzvah hachasera lo o hachalosha etzlo. Or again, I will say the difficulty or circumstances that I'm undergoing are there to teach me that I need to strengthen myself in the performance of a particular mitzvah or to strengthen something which is weak. Or sometimes again, I'm sleeping through life and the yisurim, the difficulty, the challenge is there to wake me up. So we'll say, the point that the Mechaber is making is the following, that at the end of the day, my circumstances are never haphazard. The circumstances of life are always there to teach me something. Sometimes it's to go ahead and get me to realize that I have to fix something. Sometimes it's to do tshuva for a particular aveira. Sometimes it's because ultimately, again, I have a particular weakness that needs to be remedied. Sometimes it's because I'm sleeping through life. I need to be awakened. But the point over here is that all of our life circumstances are there to teach us something. And I will say each person, in accordance with his level, is obligated to try to figure out the message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dispatching towards him or for him, and somehow to fix that which needs to be fixed. I will say a very important yesod, that this third level, it begins by teaching me there is nothing that is haphazard in life. Anything that I undergo is there to teach me some type of lesson. Now, again, I want to be clear. Often the way this message is spun is that everything that happens negative in life is a punishment. No, sometimes it's a punishment. That is true. Sometimes it is. But I will say other times, the things that happen to me in life are just there for some type of message. What that message is my job to try to figure out. Is it a message because I've done something wrong? Is it a message because I have to wake up? Is it a message for a whole variety of different things? That remains to be seen. But Lamais, at the end of the day, all of my circumstances are there for some kind of message. And I will say the bottom line of all of these things is that the deeper message, when I extract the deeper message in all of my life events, it's there to bolster some deeper level of emunah. Because I will say, understand the circle. The circle is if all of my circumstances are there to teach me a message that reinforces the idea that the Ribono Shel Olam is communicating with me, that reinforces the idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is choreographing my life. And by extension, when I begin to have that realization, that bolsters my level of emunah. So by finding the messages in the circumstances of my life, I am bolstering my sense of emunah in existence. Ki ikar ritzon shel Hashem yisbarach ba'olamo. Because the true ikar, the ikar ratzon, the real will world is to build a stronger bond of emunah between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, also, whatever happens to me in life, the Rebbe Shalom's goal is that through it, I learn to have a deeper sense of emunah. And I will say, everything that happens to me in life, a person is obligated to try to figure out, to learn, how could I use this to bolster my emunah? Kimo shemuva, ki ish ha-Yisraeli, tzarech tamid lehistakel b'haseichel shel kol davar, ulekasher atzmo al ha-chachma v'haseichel sheyish b'chol davar, k'dei sheyair lo haseichel sheyish b'chol davar l'izkarev l'Hashem yisparach al osa davar. The Rebbe said it is the job of the Jew ultimately to try to figure out how could I use this particular, in other words, understand what is the message in the circumstance, what is the meaning in the circumstance, and to some way, somehow use that to bolster my emunah. But someone who does not go ahead, try to understand on a deeper level, what is the deeper meaning, what is the deeper seichel of something, and I will say a person finds himself like in the state of being of Esav. He goes on, he says, Shebizas habechora kimo shekasov, vayibes Esav es habechora. Dahainu haseichel, bechinas lo yachbos ksil betvuna kim behiskalas libo. See, what the Mechaber posits over here is that the midah of Esav is a midah of not understanding, a midah of looking at the circumstances of your life and not trying to find deeper meaning into them, not trying to understand what the message is, but rather, again, just simply taking the events of life, not processing, going through them, and then just coming to your own haphazard conclusions. Inyan zeh shel chipos hamesar shel haborei hu amok ma'od v'rachav ma'od. We both say this idea of the need to go ahead and seek out the deeper message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu dispatches to us in our life events is very deep and very profound. Ube'emes kol hasefer hazeh kulo osek b'chipos zeh. And I will say we're going to spend the majority of the rest of this sefer trying to understand the deeper meaning in our life events. Aval yisod harishon she'adam tzarech lahachtir lelibo al manas lizkos l'dargazu. But I will say the first level, or I should say the first midah, the one who has to accept upon himself in order to acquire this midah, shishleimus hamunah, hu yisod she'in yisurim lo abol. I will say is the principle that there is no suffering without sin. Now, what does that mean? There's no suffering without sin. What the Mechaber means when he says that is, there is no life event that is without meaning. The greatest danger in life is when a person begins to look at the circumstances of their life and just assumes that things are haphazard, that things are random. The person always has to realize that the events of life are always laden with a deeper meaning. And our job is to try to figure out what that meaning is. So we'll stop over here for today, but understand now we're up to in the Mechaber this third and final construct of emunah. That if level one ultimately is a belief that all is from God, number two, a belief that all is good, and then number three, that somehow, some way, everything in my life, everything that occurs to me has a deeper meaning, is there to teach me some type of deeper lesson, and by extension, ultimately, again, the deeper meaning in all of those things, somehow, some way is able to help me bolster a profound or cultivate a more profound level of emunah. All right, so we'll stop. We're going to pick up on Kuf Hey and Yirtzeh Hashem tomorrow. It's very warm here. Yeah. We should go into the shul now. It is warm. It's not just. She wants to show. What? Someone in here? Stay here. Just a little. Just a lot.
It is cold in here.
I'm sorry.
I can feel cold air. I can feel cold air.
You do feel. Okay, good. Hashem. Good. You give me
Okay.
I'm just thinking about this one more. I'm just thinking about this one more. You feel it? Yeah. All right, Jabal said good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Kuf Samech Dalid, and we are picking up on Kuf Samech Dalid. So the Gemara says we're picking up with Meisvei. It's a 2, 4, 6, 7 lines down from the top. So the Gemara says the following. So let's remember again, we just left off with the statement of Rav, where Rav essentially said that the Eidim cannot sign on an erased part unless, of course, the erasure took place in front of them. Only once the Eidim see the erasure do the Eidim have the ability to sign on the document. So Rav's point is hopefully use the erasures and potentially go ahead and sign and re-sign, or I should say write and rewrite. So Messi, the Gemara raises the kasha. Hu ala niyar ve'idav al hamachak. So we'll say, what about the following case? Text the document is on regular parchment, in other words, unerased parchment, ve'idav al hamachak, but the witnesses are signed on an erased piece of parchment. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Kasher. So the document is kasher. But why aren't we concerned that perhaps the document will be erased? Right? The owner of the document will erase the document, rewrite what he wants on the document, and ultimately forge it. I will say again, remember in this case, the document itself is written on the unerased piece of parchment. The witnesses are signed on the erased piece of parchment. Therefore, if you just erase the text, then both will look the same. Then ultimately both will be on erased parchment, and one can get away with forgery, to which the Gemara says, because they will say they write the following on the shtar. So we'll say the Gemara says, because what's the case? The case is where the witnesses write on the actual document, we, the witnesses, have signed on the erased part, but the shtar itself was written on regular unerased parchment. To which the Gemara says, so we'll say, writing that line in ensures that no one could go ahead and forge the document, because at the end of the day, the witnesses are explicitly saying that the document was originally written on unerased parchment. To which the Gemara says, well, where exactly is this line being written? If it's being written underneath the signatures of the witnesses, so Gaisle, it could easily be cut away off that bottom line. And if it's written above the signatures of the witnesses, why can't you erase it? Because after all, remember again, you could just say that was part of the erased part of the shtar. To which the Gemara answers, this line is written in between the signatures of the witnesses. In other words, we'll say, interestingly enough, so in this kind of case, where the shtar is written on what we'll call regular parchment, on erased parchment, so the fail-safe, or I should say the forgery prevention clause is in between the signatures of the witnesses. There's a line that says, we, the witnesses, signed on erased parchment. The text of the document was written on regular parchment, and because that line is written in between the signatures, really it's tamper-proof. You can't do anything with it, because if you try to erase it, it'll be discernible. If you try to blot it out, it's the Gemara says, if that's the case, Amos Seifa. Look at the end of that brisa. What's the end of the brisa? Hu al hamachak ve'idav al aniyar. Well, so what about the flip case? Let's say the document itself was written on the erased part of the shtar, and the witnesses signed on unerased parchment. So what's the halacha? So again, in this case, it's document itself on erased parchment, witnesses signed on unerased parchment. What's the halacha? The Brisa ruled that it's possible. My possible. I don't understand why is it possible in this case. After all, again, hachet nami nichtivu hachi anachno sahadi chasamna al naira ushtara al machka. Why can't the Edom just simply write in between their signatures? We, the witnesses, signed on unerased parchment, but the document itself was written on erased parchment. To which the Gemara says, "My Amrit, what are you worried about? Mochek v'chozer u'mochek." Are you concerned about the fact that perhaps what? That perhaps we will go ahead and erase the shtar, meaning erase the shtar, and go ahead and re-sign. Look at the Rashbam for just a moment. The Rashbam says, "Hashtanami chozer od u'mochek u'mezayif u'makshinon ha'amrit inodome." I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, my Amrit, what are you concerned about in this case, Rabbi? So remember, this is the reverse of the previous case. In this case, the shtar is being written on the erased part of the document, and witnesses are signing. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. And witnesses are signing on the unerased part. So, what are you worried about? Are you worried about that since the document is being written, part of the shtar? Therefore, what? Somebody is going to erase it a second time again. So we already spoke about that. The Gemara says, "Ha'amrit inodom nimchak pamachos lenimchak shtei pamim." We don't have to worry about that. Why not? Because we already established yesterday, bro, said that what? That a document that was erased once looks differently than a document erased twice. So you, the Gemara is asking over here. In this case, like the document is being written on the erased part of the parchment, and the witnesses are signing on the unerased part of the parchment. So yet the Brisa says that such a document is possible. You want to try to understand why not. What are you concerned about? If you're concerned that since the text of the document was already written on an erased piece of parchment, so it's easy enough for someone to re-erase it a second time and rewrite whatever they want. So the Gemara says you can't do that because you've already established that a document that's been erased twice looks different than a document erased once. So if it's erased twice, people can already detect the forgery. To which the Gemara says, no. Hanimili. It will say, when did we say that you could tell the difference between erasure and a second time erasure? It will say that's when the witnesses themselves on the erased part. However, this is actually very interesting. What the Gemara essentially answers is the following. When can you tell the difference between a first erasure and the second erasure? When you're looking at them side by side. So for example, if let's say the whole document was erased and then they rewrote it, text and then signatures, and then somebody went ahead and once again erased the text and rewrote the text, then Lamaisa, you'd be able to contrast the two erasures on the same document. But I will say you can't tell if something has been erased once or twice by comparing it to unerased parchment. So in this case over here, where the top part of the parchment has been erased once, documents been written on it, then witnesses sign on the unerased part, bottom part of the parchment, and now somebody comes along and would technically erase the document and write the second time again on it. By contrasting the top part and the second part of the document, you would not be able to tell if the second part's been erased once or twice. The only time you could tell a first erasure versus a second erasure is when you're comparing them side by side. That's why the Brisa rules that this document would ultimately be invalid. Why? Because you really would not be able to detect the forgery. Somebody says, I don't understand. I don't understand. It's easy enough. If you're concerned that on this document, I will say that perhaps it was erased a second time. So just bring another piece of parchment, erase it once, compare this piece of parchment that's been erased once to the document. If they look the same, then you can tell the document's not a forgery. It's only been the parchment's only been erased once. If the parchment's been erased twice, however, it'll look different than that other piece of one-time erased parchment, and you'll be able to tell the forgery. To which the Gemara says, both said, to which the Gemara answers that you cannot compare erasures. If you take a look at the Rashbam, it's almost, if you go across in the Rashbam about 5 lines up, L'machka d'hamigilta ze'av v'zedak umachak shaklaf av ino nikar kolkach. I will say parchments, especially again in the times of the Gemara, but I will say everything was done by hand, right? There are no machines to aid in these processes. So I'll say at the end of the day, each piece of parchment looks different. Some are thicker, some are thinner, which means that by definition, every erasure looks different. So to go ahead and take a one-time erased piece of parchment and compare it to the document and try to tell, has the document been erased once or has the document been erased twice? L'maisa, again, that's not going to work. To which the Gemara says, I'm sorry. Listen to this. So the Gemara has a very interesting answer. Remember again, what's the case here? The case over here is that we have a piece of parchment. The top part's been erased. The bottom part has never been erased. The text of the document is written on the one-time erased piece of parchment. The Eidim are signing on the never erased piece of parchment. What we are concerned about, what the Bryce is concerned about in this case is that somebody could come along, such a document is possible. Why? Because the Bryce rules that it can be easily forged. How could it be easily forged? Since the top part has already been erased once, somebody can come and erase it again, rewrite what they want, and utilize the signatures of the witnesses. So the Gemara is trying to figure out, because why? Because the Gemara assumes you will not be able to tell by contrasting the top with the bottom if it's been erased once or been erased twice. So I was trying to figure out how you could detect a forgery. So attempt number one was to try to bring in another piece of parchment, erase it once, compare it to the document. Do the two erasures look the same? That would prove it's a one-time erasure. The Gemara says it doesn't work because different pieces of parchment erase in different ways. To which the Gemara says, I'll give you a different eitzah. The different eitzah is uphold the signatures of the witnesses. Do chasimas yedei edim. Uphold the signatures of the witnesses. In other words, so establish their signatures. Then what? Erase them. In other words, after you've already ascertained that these signatures are legitimate, the witnesses are good, erase the signatures. What do you then do when you erase the signatures of Hosai? Now you have a document that is fully erased. What will you be easy? What will you be able to tell relatively quickly? You're going to compare the bottom of the document to the top of the document. If they look the same, then that proves the top of the document has what? Once. If they don't look the same, then Lamaisa, that proves that the top of the document has been erased more than once. To which the Gemara says, Rav Hoshi, you can't do that. Because Eino Nimchak, look at the Rashba for just a moment. Unekabel chasimas yadayhu beveidina, shelo yafsid balashtar edo shaledav, ba'achar kach nimchak v'nichtov v'himekil to go for v'nedamya. In other words, make sure you uphold the signatures, so that basically knows the signatures are legitimate. Then erase them, and compare the erasure on the bottom of the shtar to the erasure on the top of the shtar. To which the Gemara says it won't work. I'll tell you what. Amar Rav Hoshia, Eino doma nimchak ben yomo. Because I will say you cannot compare a document that has been erased today to a document that's been erased a few days ago. So I guess I don't know, different factors I guess have an impact upon the nature, the tsura, the look of the parchments. So apparently again, the oxidation with the erasure and everything else somehow makes the document look different. So the idea that the Gemara is saying over here is that the bottom erasure may or may not look the same as the top erasure, but that may have nothing to do with the fact that the top erasure may be potentially a fraudulent second erasure, or rather it may just have to do with the fact that this was done today, this was done a few days ago. So if that's the case, that you're concerned about age, erase the bottom of the document and let the document sit a little bit, and then over time they'll be able to tell if the two erasures look the same. Our Rabbi said, no, we're concerned again of Osai, of a Beis Din who's going to make a mistake. In other words, that in these kind of situations, we prefer to rule immediately and not to let things sit. Because the more you let things sit, the more the possibility and potential ultimately for some type of error. So we'll say, so bottom line, what the Gemara suggested, like, so what do we come out with from this sugya? Number one, we come out with the sheet of Rav. And Rav says that any time someone is asked to witness or to sign on a document with erasures, you can only do that if the erasures were done in front of you. Not done in front of you, better not to sign on to such a document because it opens up the possibility for fraud. We've also now established, that if you have a situation where the document was written on erased parchment, witnesses signed on regular parchment. So the fail-safe to prevent any type of, I'm sorry, just the opposite. The document is written on regular parchment, witnesses signed on erased parchment. So again, the Gemara suggests the witnesses put in a little statement in between their signatures, going ahead and highlighting the fact that Lamaisa, they have signed on erased part and the document was written on unerased part. If it's the reverse, that the witnesses are signing on the unerased part and the document is written on the erased part, the Gemara says such a shtar will be puzzle. Why will such a shtar be puzzle? Because they're both saying there really is no way to prevent fraud in that case. There's no way to prevent someone from coming along a second time and erasing the text, rewriting something, and utilizing the signatures of the witnesses. And because there is no way to prevent against fraud in that type of document, Chazal puzzled that type of document. Fine. We'll say 2 lines off of the bottom. Kuf Sanach Dal Ramadal. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel Omer Makosher. So remember again, we saw in the Mishnah. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said that you could go ahead Makosher shekasvu idav mitocho kosher v'mneishyachal so pashet. So Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said that one of the ways in which we contrasted a get Makosher versus a get pashet is how that a get Makosher the witnesses sign on the front of the document, the side of the text. Get Makosher again, that's a get pashet. Get Makusher, they sign on the back. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said that if you have a get Makusher where the witnesses signed on the front of the document itself is still valid. Why? Why? Because you can make it into a pashat. You just simply make it into a regular document. So says the Gemara. So we'll say Rebbe, if Rebbe went ahead and raised the question, literally Heish means he tried to refute the position of Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. Look at the last page before you turn the page. Heish Rabbi L'divrei Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. Shor Makusha Yochalas also Pashat. So Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel who said that you can make a Makusha into a Pashat, Rebbe came along and tried to refute this position. Amud Beis. V'halo Eino Dome Zmano Shalzeh. So we'll say Rebbe said, how can you make a makusher into a pashat? After all, the way we date the shtaros are different by a makusher and by a pashat. How so? Pashat, also when it comes to a get, what we call a get pashat, which is a regular document, shana, monin lo shana, shtayim, monin lo shtayim. So we'll say the halacha is shtaros were always dated, in addition to having the Jewish date, were also dated in accordance with the year of the monarch, of the particular monarch. Now again, when that's a Jewish king, it's a Jewish king. The Gemara is over here referring much more to a Gentile king. So they would date their shtaros in accordance, ultimately, again, with the year of the reign of the Gentile king. Now watch this. Now the Gemara says over here, by Makusher, so the date of the monarchy that you put in there is the actual date of the monarchy. If the king's reigned 1 year, you put in 1 year. 2 years, 2 years. However, Makusher, when it comes to a get Makusher, Malach Shana Monin Lo Shtayim, Shtayim Monin Lo Gimel. If the king has reigned 2 years, you put 3 years of his reign in the document. If he's reigned 2 years, you put in 1 year. If he reigned 1 year, you put in 2 years for his reign. If he reigned 2 years, you put in 3 years for his reign. Now, what's the logic behind this? Take a look at the Rashbam. Top Rashbam. Alo in zmano shel pashet ki zmano shel makusher. Tilo zmano shel pashet im nichtav b'shana harishon shamad hamelech in monin lo ela shana shtayim monin lo shtayim ava makusher im malach shana kosen b'shtar shtayim shtayim monin lo shalosh kolomar makdimin lo shah shana sharim minag ha'uma kidla kamon lahaktim lemelech shana. Both sides. What the Gemara points out over here is the following: the way by the Gentile nations is that the way they would date their documents was always by adding on a year to the reign of the sitting monarch. Now, what was the point of doing that? He says, "Lekavod hamelech hayu osim kilomar kvar hechsik b'malchuso shtei shanim." So, let's listen to this. The idea was it was like a bracha to the monarch. So, if the king only reigned 2 years, you would date your shtaros in the 3rd year of the king. So, by always adding on to a year of the king, it was like a bracha to the malchus. That's how Gentiles used to date their documents. Now, under normal circumstances, I will say, when we date our documents, we don't date like that. Rather, we just go ahead and use the actual year of the reign of the monarch. So what? So the Gemara suggests now, or I should say, Rebbe suggests now that Lamaisa herein lies one of the distinctions between a makusher and the get pashut. By a get pashut, we use the actual year of the reign of the monarch. By get makusher, we use what we call the Gentile system of dating, shtaros, which is by adding on an extra year to the reign of the monarch. Now, we'll say, why would Chazal institute a different kind of date by makusher than they would by a get pashut? So the Rashbam says over here, the Chachamim tiknu lichto b'makusher k'minhag ha'umah kadei losos chilukim harbe b'chumrus b'makusher mishum takanas hakohanim hakapdonim kedarmin alael kadei shlo yehi noach legarish l'shoseh. The goal is to make the to make the makusher as complicated as possible. That's the goal. Make it as complicated as possible. So how do you make it as complicated as possible? So we saw you make the folds, you go out and you change, and by changing the dating, by not making it a normal dating of shtaros, you just make it more complicated. Anything we can do to make it more complicated slows down the process. And of course, our vested interest is getting this shtar or this get. So the Gemara says the following. So what happens? So the Gemara says there's a problem. Now, Rebbe's saying, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, say that what happens if you have a get makusha and you accidentally signed the witnesses on the front part of the shtar. So what's that? Rabbi Chanina said it's okay. Why is it okay? Because the you could just make it into a get makusha, right? Excuse me, I'm sorry. You can make it into a get pashut. So even though get makusha normally signed on the back of the shtar, if they accidentally signed on the front of the shtar, it's fine. You could just make it into a get pashut. Which Rebbe says, here's the problem. Here's the problem. The Zimnin, Rabbi Saikov Samech Dalad on the base, fourth line down. The Zimnin, the Yazif Mine Zuzi b'makusher. Supposed to listen to this. Imagine the following situation. I lent Reuben $1,000, and I lent it to him using a get makusher. Umisrami le Zuze Beini Ubeini. Supposed to say, now remember, if I gave it to him with a get makusher, so let's say again, remember, get makusher is dated how? 1 year ahead, meaning one year ahead of the king's actual reign. So let's say I lent Reuben $1,000 in the second year of the king. We dated the shtar, of course, what? The third year of the king. Now, both say, so we're writing a makusher, so we did it like a makusher. But then what ended up happening? What ended up happening is the witnesses ended up signing on the front end of the document. So we said, okay, you know what? Instead of drafting a new document, we'll just make it into what? Make it into what? We'll make it into a pashut. Just make it into a pashut. So I'll say, so watch how this could be abused. So the Gemara says, so I lend Reuben $1,000. Reuben comes to me a few months later, before the due date of the debt, and goes in and repays the debt. It wasn't under normal circumstances. When you go ahead and you repay, if you're a borrower and you repay the debt, what do you get when you repay the debt? You get the loan document, you get the shtar, because you don't want the lender to be able to take it again from you. So what happens? I say, you know what, Reuben, I'm sorry, I lost the shtar. Now I'm lying. You're going to say I'm trying to abuse this situation. So what happens? I say, I lost it. I'm so sorry. Because of late Tavra. But I go ahead and say, you know what, I'll write you a receipt. I'll write you a receipt indicating that you paid the debt. So what happens, I was saying? Remember, how was this shtar dated? This shtar is dated a year in advance. The chimat is money when it comes to the end of the third year of the reign of the king, which is the date stated in the shtar itself. Mashrile pashut. Now I'll present it as a get pashut, as a regular pashut document. Va'amarle, and I'll come to Reuben and try to collect again. Va'amarle, hani hashta dias visminoi. And the say again, I'll say, listen, you owe me money. You see what's happening over here? What Rebbe's saying to Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel is the following. You're saying that you can make a makusher into a pashut comes with the ability to take advantage of the borrower. Because the Ma'aser, remember again, the dating is different. A makusher is dated a year ahead, right? A pashut is dated with the actual reign. If you're telling me that you can go ahead and you can take a makusher, you can make it into a pashut, then that means if Reuben comes to pay back the money he owes me, and I tell him, so I don't have the document, but I'll write you a receipt that says he repaid the debt. Fine, repay the debt. Then what happens, a year later, in the actual third year of the king, I can go ahead and produce that document and say, Reuben, you owe me money. I know what is Reuben going to say? What is Reuben going to say? Reuben's going to say, I paid you. I said, no, you paid me for that previous debt. but you now owe me this new debt, right? Because even look at the date of the shover. That date of the shover was the second year of the king. This document is dated in the third year of the king. So you see that you owe me new monies. To which the Gemara says, so Rebbe is raising this contradiction to Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. You're claiming that you can make a makusher into a pashut. Ultimately, again, it's fraught with problems. To which the Gemara says, Kasavar, and then Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says, in kosin shover. We'll say in kosin shover means that we do not write receipts. We'll say now when we say in kosin, now we're going to see this sugi later on. Where we say we don't write receipts is another way of saying that a borrower is not obligated to pay back the debt unless, of course, what? Can produce the document. If the lender can't produce the document and hand back that document to the borrower and allow the borrower to either hold on to or destroy that document, the borrower is not obligated to repay. Why? Because repayment under those circumstances opens up the borrower to the possibility that he may be taken advantage of. So, Umi Baki Rebbe Makusher, but ask the Gemara, I don't understand. An expert in a get Makusher that he can start asking questions and trying to refute Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. After all, V'hahahu Makusher, the Asli Kamei de Rebbe. Listen to this, Shabbat say. There was a particular get Makusher that came before Rebbe. V'amar Rebbe, Shtar Mu'ucher Zeh. Rebbe says this document is a shtar me'ocher. Now also we learned about this. Shtar me'ocher means a post-dated document. Rebbe was saying that is a shtar me'ocher kosher? The answer is yes, because the only person taking a risk in that is either right or the right, that is the lender. If he chooses to take that risk, that's it. But the point I will say is that Rebbe sees a get makusher, and apparently Rebbe wasn't such an expert in get makusher, because he's saying that the document is a mu'ucher, meaning it's not a mu'ucher, rather what we just established, that's the way a get makusher is dated. It's dated a year in advance. But Amrle Zunin, the Rebbe, and Zonin, who's the name of a Tana, said to Rebbe, Kach min haga shal umazu. So Zonin says to Rebbe, no, Rebbe, you're misunderstanding. This is the way that the Gentile nations date their documents. Malach shana, morin lo shtayim. Shtayim, morin lo shalosh. That was that Zonin says to Rebbe, the way that it works is the Gentile nations, they always add on a year to the king's current reign. And therefore, again, for a get makusher, that is how we date our documents as well. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Basar deshama mizonin sabra. So we'll say, so Rebbe became more proficient after having this lesson from Zonin. Fine. Ha'ushtara davakasav bay arkon. So we'll say there was a particular document that surfaced, and the way it was written, we'll say this. Rashbam points out that this was a get pashut. This was a regular document, and the way it was dated was Bishnas Ploni Arkon. In the year of Ploni, whatever the name of the king was, Arkon. So the Gemara says, what does this mean? Now take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Davakasav Bey Bishnas Ploni Arkon. See, if you go across in the Rashbam, it's about 10 lines down. Davakasav Bey Bishnas Ploni Arkon. Lava Ploni Mi Ploni. So also the way the document read was, in the year of Sowen, Reuven borrowed from Shimon. V'lo havakasav bei kama shanim lemalchuso shel osamelech, o rishona, o shnia, o shlishos. So we'll say all the document said was, it was in the year of so-and-so king Arkon. But it did not say what year of the reign it was. Was it year 1? Was it year 2? Was it year 3? So says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Mechanina, Yibadek imasai amad arkon ba'arkanusei. So Rabbi Chanina says we have to check when Arkon began ba'arkanusei. Look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam says again, Yibdok imasai amad arkon ba'machuso, ki b'shana rishon shamachuso nichtav shtar zeh u'me'ahi shas atarpei ba'alei chavos lekuchos. So Rabbi Chanina essentially says Arkon is the lashon for the first year of the reign of a king. Then we'll say, what's the pshat? Why does Arkon mean the first year of the reign of the king? So if you go back to the previous Rashbam, the Rashbam says, Arkon zeh malach, u'b'shana rishona koren lo Arkon kidlakama lefi sha'ata metukan hu kimot orech olu orech. So we'll say the idea over here is, in the first year of a king, they would call the king Arkon. Like the idea being that in the first year of his reign, they would call him Arkon as a bracha. A bracha that you should have orech yamim, arichus yamim, right? That you should go ahead and have longevity. Should be zocha to a continuous monarchy. So Rabbi Hanina says, therefore, again, that Lashon Nishtar means that this shtar was written in the first year of the reign of the king. So the Gemara says, I have a Dilma da'arich malchuse. I don't understand, maybe means that the king has been serving as monarch for a long time. So maybe it's not like an anticipatory bracha that he should have a long reign. Maybe just the opposite. It's reflected that he has enjoyed a long reign already. Rav Oshia says, this is the minhag of this nation. Now, when they say umazu usually historically refers to one of two nations, either Greece, one of three nations, Bavel, Greece, or Rome. And depending ultimately who's talking, you can be able to tell historically which particular nation they're talking about. So we'll say the Pashtus over here, as we're going to see in just a moment, they're talking about Greece. To which the Gemara says, Korin lo, Shana Rishona, Korin lo Arkan. In the first year of the king's reign, they would give him the title Arkan. Shnia Korin lo Digon, right? In the second year, they would call him Digon. That was the title they gave him for a second year of his reign. Which the Gemara says, Vidilma Avuri Avru Vahadra Akamu. Or maybe, perhaps, the king was king, then they removed him, and then they reestablished him. The Gemara says, Yirmiyah, Hahu Arkon Digon Karle. We'll say the king was king, then I guess deposed, and then reinstated. They would give him the title of Arkon Digon. 10 rabbans. Now, once the Gemara starts talking about types of names that refer to different durations of time, the Gemara gives some other examples of this. 10 rabbanan. Hareini Nazir. So we'll say, let's say a person says he's a Nazir. I will say, now understand, Stam Nazir Naziros is 30 days. But the Gemara is dealing now with the situation where a person says Harini Nazir, and they add an additional word. And depending on the nature of that word, determines how many durations of Naziros are taking upon themselves. Sarini Nazir, Sumchos Omer Hina, Achos. We'll say if a person says, I am a Nazir, Hina. Hina, these are all Greek derivative words. Hina means he's accepting upon himself one duration of Naziros, one 30-day duration of Naziros. Digon, if he says Harini Nazir Digon, then what? Shtaim, he's taking upon himself two durations of Naziros. Trigon, he says I'm a Nazir Trigon. The Rebbe say takes upon himself 3 periods of Naziros, meaning 3 30-day periods. Tatrigon, I'm a Nazir Tatrigon, 4 periods of Naziros. Pentigon, I'm a Nazir Pentigon, 5 periods of Naziros. So we'll say, see, this is just a flow from the previous discussion, ultimately, again, from the discussion about the kings. Now we see by Naziros. One more application of this. Tanrabanan. Bayis Agul, we'll say if you have a round house, or Digon, Trigon, Pentigon, or a house, we'll say, with 2 corners, or a house with 3 corners, or a house with 5 corners, Eino Mitame Benegon. We'll say such a home is not susceptible to Tumas Negon. It's not susceptible to Tsaras Habayis. Tetrigon Mitame Benegon. However, if the home has 4 corners, then what we'll say, it is susceptible to Tumas Tsaras. What's the reason for this? Where do we know this from? The Tan Rabbanan. Because we learned above. Sorry. The Tan Rabbanan, because we learned Lemala Omer Kir Kiros Shtayim. Lemata Omer Kir Kiros Shtayim. So we'll say what the Gemara is pointing out over here is the following: that by Tsaras Habayis, the Torah could have used the lashon kir, wall, but instead it uses the plural lashon of kiros, walls plural, and it does that twice. So we'll say the minimum number of kiros times 2 is how much? Is 4. So from here you see, I will say that in order for a home to contract Tsaras Habayis, it has to what? It has to have at least 4 walls. Okay, so also listen to this. Now we're going to get into some really beautiful Gemara. I mean, this has all been beautiful, magnificent. This is even more beautiful. So Gemara says the following. Hauma Kusher, thus like the Rebbe. But listen to this. There was a get Kusher that came before Rebbe. Rebbe said, we actually quoted this story on Shabbos. Rebbe, Ein Zman Baseh. Rebbe looked at the document and he said, there's no date in this document. Amrli Rebbe Shimon Rebbe the Rebbe. So Rebbe Shimon, the son of Rebbe, said to Rebbe, Shema bin Kshar of Muvla. Maybe the date is literally swallowed up in the folds. Remember, again, a get mukusher is folded up. So Rabbi Shimon said to his father, maybe the date is there, it's just swallowed up in some of the folds. Palye, so they opened up, they untied the shtar. The chazye, they looked inside the shtar. Chazye, hadar, chaza bey. I'm sorry, palye bechazye. So they opened up, they untied the knots of the shtar. They opened it up, and sure enough, they saw the dates. Hadar chaza bey Rebbe bebishos. So let's say if you take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment, it's 5 lines up from the bottom in the wide lines. Chaza bey bebishos kasaver shu kasvo. So we'll say, so after this episode, Rebbe kind of looked a little bit disapprovingly or disparagingly at Rabbi Shimon. Now, what's happening over here? The Rashbam points out, Rebbe did not like, right? He did not like Gitei Makusha. He didn't like it. He didn't like it because, number one, they're complicated. And number two, if you really don't know what you're doing, it's easy to make mistakes. So Rebbe looked at Rabbi Shimon a bit disapprovingly, thinking that Rabbi Shimon was the one who wrote this get makusher, and was upset at him. Don't write these kind of documents. So we'll say, watch this. So Chazi be Rebbe Bishus. Amalei, Rabbi Shimon responds to Rebbe, Lav ana kasafte. So Rebbe, I didn't write it. Rabbi Yehuda Chayta kasve. It was Rabbi Yehuda Chayta who wrote it. So we'll say, Rabbi Shimon therefore goes in and says to his father, to Rebbe, I didn't write this. But rather again, it was Rabbi Yehuda Chayta. Amalei. So Rebbe gives Rabbi Shimon Moser. Why are you saying Lashon Hara? Why are you saying Lashon Hara? In other words, what? All you needed to say was what? Was what? Someone else wrote. I didn't. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. But there was absolutely no need for you to out. In other words, we'll say, let's be clear. Ego, meaning the individual didn't do anything wrong. Rebbe just happened to really feel that people should not write to get mokosher. It's just, it opens yourself up for an incredible amount of mistakes. See, when he thinks Rabbi Shimon does it, all Rabbi Shimon has to say is it wasn't me. You don't have to say it's Rabbi Yehuda Chayta. So therefore, Rebbe tells Rabbi Shimon, you spoke Lashon Hara. And spoke Lashon Hara unnecessarily. We'll say another story. Zimnin, Haba Yosef Kameh. Again, Rabbi Shimon was sitting before Rebbe. V'kapasik Sidra B'Sefer Tehillim. And what happens? And Rabbi Shimon was saying to him, Amar Rebbe, Kama Miyushar Ksav Zeh. So Rebbe said to Rabbi Shimon, what a beautiful Sefer Tehillim you have. Amar Lei, to which Rabbi Shimon responded, Lav Ana Kasafte, I did not write this Sefer Tehillim. Yehuda Chayta Kasve. It was Yehuda Chayta who wrote the Sefer Tehillim. Amar Lei, Ki Alecha Milashon Hara. Rebbe said to Rabbi Shimon, stop speaking Lashon Hara. So says the Gemara, I don't understand. Bishlam Hasam Ika Lashon Hara. I understand in the first case, right, by the get Makusher, there's Lashon Hara, because Rebbe tried to preach, don't write Gite Makusher, don't write them, and yet again Rabbi Yehuda Chayta is writing them. So I understand why it's Lashon Hara for Rabbi Shimon to say that Rabbi Yehuda Chayta wrote the get Makusher. Elahacha, my Lashon Hara Ika. They're both say over here by the Sefer Tehillim. So why is there Lashon Hara? Why is Lashon Hara? Mishum de Rav Dimi. Because they both say this goes in accordance to Rav Dimi. What does Rav Dimi say? The Tani Rav Dimi Achud Rav Safra Li'olam Al Yisaper Adam B'Tavasa Shel Chaveiro. They both say it is important never to speak excessive good about someone. Why? Shemitoch Tavaso Ba Lidei Ra'aso. Because they both say we all know how this works. Sometimes when the conversation begins on a good level, what ends up happening? What ends up happening is Lashon Hara ends up happening. Sometimes when the conversation even begins with singing the praises of someone, first of all, you never know who you're speaking to. You never know how that other person feels about this individual. And so the more you end up speaking about someone, even if the intention is to do it in a positive way, it's possible that it could descend into something negative. We'll say, which is an incredible yisor. Essentially what the Gemara is saying is, don't talk about people. There's now again, does this mean you shouldn't compliment? Does this mean you shouldn't praise? No, chas v'shalom. And by the way, the Maharsha actually points out that the exception to this is tzaddikim, he brings down. That by tzaddikim, there's dafka and inyan to speak about tzaddikim, so we can learn from tzaddikim. But in general, when speaking about other people, sometimes it's kedai to limit the amount, even if l'maisa, I'm saying good, because the more you speak about people, the greater the statistical probability that you'll come to say something negative. And I will say, if we're honest, we've all had conversations like this, where again, we've started out speaking nicely or trying to praise someone, and because you never know who you're speaking to, you never know ultimately, again, what your circumstances are or who it is that you're speaking about. So lemais, again, you never know what the reaction ultimately is going to be. Therefore, says Rav Dimi, better not to speak excessively positive about anyone, lest you come ultimately to speak about Lashon Hara. Therefore, again, Rebbe says to Rabbi Shimon, don't start praising Rabbi Yehuda Chayet's skill as a sof writing in Sefer Tehillim, because if you praise him too much, you may come ultimately again, or someone else who is in earshot may come to say something negative. We'll have to stop over here. As I mentioned, it's kedai to be here at the beginning of the shir tomorrow morning, because this Gemara that we're doing at the beginning of the daf is incredibly, magnificently beautiful Gemara, just about Lashon Hara, other things. So it's kedai. Again, we'll start regular schedule tomorrow morning, 5:45 Gan Emuna, 6 a.m. Daf Yomi. Hopefully, the weather will be a little bit better in here. Hashem. We'll stop here.